She was beaten, broken, and sold for gold. Everyone thought her story was over. But in the frozen mountains, she met a man who changed everything. The blood was warm against her palm. Emma clamped her hand over her mouth, tasting copper and salt, swallowing the scream before it could escape. The leather strap had found her cheek this time, a new constellation of pain to add to the map of old bruises across her ribs, her shoulders, her back. 19 years old. She couldn't remember a single morning without the ache. Behind her, the rocking chair scraped to a halt. The floorboards groaned under her mother's weight. And then the whiskey breath washed over Emma's neck like steam from a boiling pot. Worthless girl, can't even carry water without making a mess. The words didn't cut. Not anymore. Emma had learned years ago that flinching only made it worse. "I'm sorry, Mama. I'll clean it up." "You'll clean it up." Ruth Dozen's laugh was wet and ugly. "You'll clean it up like you clean everything up. Like you cleaned up your father." That one still found the soft places. Emma kept her eyes on the gray water spreading across the pine boards. 3 hours of scrubbing, gone in a single stumble. Her knees ached. Her knuckles were cracked open, bleeding where the lye soap had eaten through the skin. The kick came without warning. Boot toe to her ribs, right where the last bruise was just beginning to yellow. Emma curled inward, gasping, but didn't cry out. "Get up!" She pushed herself to hands and knees. The cold from the wet floor soaked through her thin dress, but she'd stopped feeling cold years ago. There was only the cold inside her mother's eyes now. "And that never went away," I said. Ruth grabbed a fistful of Emma's hair and wrenched her upright. "Get up." The scalp burned. Emma's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed. "Look at me when I talk to you." She lifted her chin. Ruth's face was a ruin. Jiz's skin stretched over sharp bones, eyes yellowed from years of cheap whiskey, lips cracked and peeling, but her grip was still iron. It always would be. "Pritchard needs help at the general store. You're going into town." "Yes, Mama." "You come back with money or a bottle. I don't care which." "Yes, Mama." "Come back empty-handed and I'll use something worse than the belt this time." Emma didn't doubt it. Last month, Ruth had held Emma's hand over the stove flame for 10 full seconds just because the stew had burned while Emma was outside chopping wood. The blisters had taken 3 weeks to heal. The scars would take forever. Ruth shoved her toward the door. Emma grabbed her threadbare shawl from the hook and stepped outside. December in Silverbent, Montana Territory was a special kind of punishment. The cold hit like a fist. Immediate, unforgiving, hungry snow fell in thick curtains, swallowing the world whole. Emma couldn't see past 20 theft in any direction. The town itself was just a rumor hidden somewhere in all that white. Her boots had holes in the soles. She felt every rock and root through the cracked leather before the numbness set in. 2 miles to Pritchard's store. 2 miles of wind cutting through her dress like a knife through old meat. She walked. By the time she pushed open the door of Pritchard's General, she'd stopped feeling her feet entirely. The bell jingled, a cheerful sound that felt like mockery. The poppily stove blasted heat into the small space. Emma wanted to crawl inside it. She wanted to melt into the iron and never come out. Emma, she looked up. Thomas Pritchard stood behind the counter, bald head gleaming in the lantern light, eyes kind but evasive. He never quite met her gaze, never had. Didn't want to see what he couldn't fix. "Mama said you needed help with stock," Emma said. Pritchard's mouth tightened. His eyes flicked to the fresh bruise darkening her jaw. The one from this morning's strap, and then away quick as a guilty thought. "Business is slow, child. Snow's keeping folks home. I don't have work today." Emma's stomach dropped into ice water. "Please, Mr. Pritchard." She hated the desperation in her voice. Hated it anything. "Sweeping, organizing the back room. I can work twice as hard. I can." He pulled a coin from beneath the counter. "Silver 1. Take this. It's all I can spare." Emma stared at the coin. A bottle of rye cost 50. Her mother would kill her for coming home with only $1. Not figuratively. Literally. Ruth had broken 2 of Emma's fingers last winter for coming home empty-handed. She'd laughed while Emma set them herself. "Thank you, sir," Emma whispered. Her hand was shaking when she took the coin. The doorbell jingled again. Every head in the store turned. The man who ducked through the doorway had to bend nearly double to clear the frame. He was enormous, easily 64, with shoulders like a yoke and hands the size of dinner plates. He wore furs that looked like he'd skinned the animals himself. Snow dusted his dark beard and the brim of his hat, but it was his eyes that stopped Emma's breath. Gray iron gray, cold as the sky before a blizzard. He didn't look at anyone, walked straight to the counter, boots thewing against the pine planks, and dropped a heavy burlap sack in front of Pritchard. Mallister. Pritchard's voice climbed an octave. Good to see you, Mr. Mallister. Didn't expect you down from the ridge until spring, the mountain man said. Nothing untied the sack, opened it. Pelts! Gorgeous pelts! Silver fox beaver winter martin of fortune in fur store credit, Mallister said. His voice was low and rough like gravel sliding downhill. Of course. Pritchard was already calculating. This must be worth at least 200. What do you need? Ammunition, coffee, flour. Mallister didn't answer. Emma tried to slip past him toward the door. She needed to get home. Needed to figure out what to tell her mother. Maybe if she begged. Maybe if she promised to work extra tomorrow. Maybe. Her foot caught on a loose board. She stumbled forward, crashing into Mallister's arm. It was like hitting a tree trunk. He didn't move. Didn't even sway. I'm so sorry, Emma gasped, scrambling backward. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. She squeezed her eyes shut, shoulders curving inward, bracing for the blow. Men in Silverburn hit you when you bothered them. That was just how things were. Nothing happened. She opened one eye. Mallister was staring at her. Those gray eyes had changed. They weren't cold anymore. They were studying her, cataloging her. The bruise on her jaw, the bleeding knuckles, the way she cowered like a kicked dog. Who did that to your face? He asked. Emma's mouth went dry. Fell, sir. Don't lie to me. The words weren't hard, but they weren't soft either. They were direct, like he already knew the truth and was just waiting for her to admit it. It's nothing, she whispered. Pritchard cleared his throat nervously. That's Emma Dozen. Mr. Mallister, Ruth Dozen's girl lives out past the I know where the Dozens live. Mallister didn't look away from Emma. You headed home now? Yes, sir. You got money for your mother? Emma's face flushed with shame. She held up the silver dollar. Mr. Pritchard was kind enough to. And what happens when you get home with one? The question hung in the frozen air. Emma couldn't answer. Couldn't make her voice get past the knot in her throat. Mallister turned to Pritchard. The pelts, how much? Maybe 40 in credit. I want cash. Gold. Pritchard blinked. You sure? I'd have to open the safe. Do it. Pritchard scurried to the back room. The two miners warming themselves by the stove exchanged uneasy glances, but said nothing. Mallister looked at Emma again. Your mother. She drinks. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. She hits you. Emma's eyes burned. She blinked fast, refusing to let the tears fall. I manage, sir. No, you don't. Pritchard returned with a heavy leather pouch of gold coins. Mallister took it without counting. Show me your place, he said to Emma. Take me to your mother. Why? 'Cause I'm going to buy you from her. The words didn't make sense. Emma shook her head, certain she'd misheard. Buy me? That's not people. Don't you can't just I can. Mallister headed for the door. And I am. Show me the way. The walk back to the Dozen shack felt like a death march. Snow swirled around them thick and relentless. Mallister walked beside Emma, his long strides eating up the ground. She had to half-jog to keep pace. Why are you doing this? She asked, her breath puffing white in the frozen air. Does it matter? It matters to me. Mallister was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was lower. 6 years ago, I had a wife and a daughter. They died. Smallocks. Emma's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Couldn't save them. Spent 6 years living with that. He glanced at her, those gray eyes cutting through the snow. Saw you in the store. The way you flinched. The way you held yourself like you were waiting for the next hit. Everybody gets hit sometimes, mister. No, they don't. Mallister stopped walking. I ain't a good man, Miss Dozen. Done things I ain't proud of, but I can't watch another woman get destroyed when I got the power to stop it. Emma stared at him. You don't even know me. Know enough. They walked the rest of the way in silence. The Dozen shack was barely standing. The roof sagged under the weight of snow. The windows were boarded with rags to keep out the wind. Smoke trickled from the chimney. At least Ruth had kept the fire going. Emma paused at the door, her hand on the latch. She's mean when she drinks, she said quietly. And she's always drinking. I've handled worse. Emma opened the door. Ruth was waiting in the rocking chair, the fireplace poker across her lap. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her face was twisted with anticipation. Back early, Ruth stood. The poker came up with her. Where's my money? Emma held up the silver dollar. Ruth's gaze moved past Emma's shoulder, landing on Mallister, filling the doorway. The poker lowered a fraction. Who the hell are you? Name's Caleb Mallister. Mom, live up on Blacktail Ridge. The trapper. Ruth's eyes narrowed. Heard of you. Folks say you're half crazy. Folks say a lot of things. Ruth looked from Mallister to Emma, calculating. What do you want? We ain't got nothing worth stealing. Didn't come to steal. Mallister reached inside his coat and pulled out the leather pouch, tossed it onto the table. It landed with a heavy thunk. Came to make you an offer. Ruth stared at the pouch. What kind of offer? 500 in gold. It's yours. Ruth's eyes went wide. 500 was more money than she'd seen in her entire life. In exchange for what? Mallister pointed at Emma. The word hung in the air like smoke. Emma felt the room spin. She grabbed the wall to keep from falling. Ruth looked at Emma for 1 second. Tiny flickering second. Something moved behind her mother's eyes. Doubt maybe. Or the ghost of maternal instinct. Then it was gone. You want to buy my daughter? That's right. What for? Wife servant. Ruth laughed, but it was an ugly sound. She ain't worth 500. Mister can't cook. She's slow, clumsy, drops everything. I'm not asking for a refund. Ruth grabbed the pouch, opened it, let the gold coin spill into her palm. Her eyes glittered. Take her. Emma made a sound, a small wounded sound that came from somewhere deep. Mama. Ruth didn't look at her. She was counting the coins, lips moving silently. Mama, please don't do this. Please. Ruth's voice dripped with contempt. Always please. Always begging. You're nothing but a burden, Emma. Been a burden since the day you were born. Your father worked himself to death trying to feed you. If it weren't for you, he'd still be alive. Emma felt each word like a physical blow. That's not true, she whispered. Take her. Ruth turned to Mallister, clutching the gold against her chest. Take her and get out. I never want to see her face again. Mallister looked at Emma. His expression was unreadable beneath the beard and hat shadow. Get your things, he said quietly. Whatever you can carry. Emma couldn't move. Her legs had turned to stone, Miss Dozen. Mallister's voice was firmer now. Emma, look at me. She raised her eyes to As you can stay, he said. I won't force you. But if you stay, you know what's coming. More beatings, more pain, maybe worse. Emma looked at her mother. Ruth wasn't even looking at her anymore. She was stuffing the gold coins into a tin box, muttering about train tickets and warm weather. 19 years of trying to earn her mother's love. And in the end, she wasn't even worth a goodbye. I don't have anything to pack, Emma said. Her voice sounded hollow, distant. I don't own anything. Then let's go. Mallister headed for the door. Emma took one last look at her mother, at the woman who'd given her life and then spent 19 years trying to destroy it. Ruth never looked up. Emma walked out into the snow. The cold was brutal, but Emma barely felt it. She was numb in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. Mallister's wagon waited outside Pritchard's store, hitched to 2 draft horses. He helped her onto the seat, his hands firm beneath her elbow. Where are we going? Emma asked. My cabin. Blacktail Ridge. How far? 15 mi. We'll have to walk the last few. Wagon can't make it through the deep snow. Emma nodded. She didn't care. Didn't care about anything anymore. Mallister climbed up beside her and took the reins, clicked his tongue. The horses started moving. Silverbent disappeared behind them. The snow kept falling, covering their tracks, erasing any evidence that Emma Dozen had ever existed. After an hour of silence, Mallister spoke. You thinking I'm going to hurt you? Emma didn't answer. I won't. Got no interest in hurting you. Then why? Emma's voice cracked. Why spend 500 on a stranger? Mallister was quiet for a long moment. My wife Martha, she was kind, gentle. She saw the good in everything, even when there wasn't any good to see. He gripped the reins tighter. When she died, I thought that kind of goodness died with her. Thought there wasn't nothing left in the world worth saving. He looked at Emma. Then I saw you in that store, bleeding, bruised, flinching, and still saying, please, and thank you to a world that's done nothing but hurt you. He turned back to the trail. Maybe I can't bring Martha back, but maybe I can make sure at least one more person doesn't get destroyed by this God-forsaken world. Emma didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. They kept moving through the snow, climbing higher into the mountains, leaving everything Emma had ever known behind her. She didn't look back. The wagon jolted over a frozen rut. Emma grabbed the seat to keep from falling. Her fingers were numb. Her feet had stopped hurting an hour ago, which she knew was a bad sign. Mallister noticed. Your boots, he said. They're soaked. I'm fine. You're lying. He stopped the horses and climbed down. Before Emma could protest, he was at her side of the wagon, pulling a thick wool blanket from behind the seat. Wrap your feet in this. We've got about 2 hours of walking ahead. Emma hesitated. No one had ever worried about her feet before. Take it, Mallister said. His voice wasn't gentle, but it wasn't hard either. Just direct. Frostbite ain't something you come back from. She took the blanket and wrapped it around her legs. The wool was rough and smelled like woodsome smoke. Thank you, she whispered. Mallister grunted and climbed back up, snapped the res. The horses started moving again. They rolled in silence for another mile before Emma spoke. What happened to your hand? Mallister looked down at his left hand. A thick scar ran across the back, white against his weathered skin. Bear trap, he said. 3 winters ago. Said it wrong. Closed on me before I could pull back. He flexed his fingers. Couldn't use it right for 6 months. Had to teach myself to shoot left-handed. You taught yourself to shoot with your other hand. Had to. Couldn't ask the wolves to wait while I healed. Emma almost smiled. Almost. You live up there alone all the time. Mostly. Doesn't it get lonely? Mallister was quiet for a while. The horses' hooves crunched in the snow. The wind whistled past Emma's ears. Lonely ain't the worst thing, he said. Finally, losing people? That's worse. Emma thought about her father, about how her mother used to laugh before the mine took him away, about all the years since then, watching that laughter curdle into something poisonous. Yeah, she said softly. I think it is. The trail got steeper, the snow got deeper. After another hour, Mallister stopped the wagon again. Horses go this far, he said. We walk the rest. Emma looked ahead. The trail disappeared into a wall of white. She couldn't see more than 20 ft in any direction. How much further? 3 maybe 4. Mallister was already unhitching the horses, loading supplies onto their backs. Stay close. Step where I step. Snow hides cracks. You fall in one, you don't come out. Emma climbed down from the wagon. Her legs nearly buckled. She'd been sitting so long they'd gone dead. Mallister handed her a walking stick. Keep moving. You stop, you freeze. They started walking. The first mile wasn't so bad. Emma focused on Mallister's back, putting her feet exactly where he'd stepped. The snow came up to her knees, sometimes higher. Every step was an effort. By the second mile, her lungs were burning. I need to rest, she gasped. Just a minute. No. Mallister didn't slow down. You rest, your body cools, muscles tighten. You don't stop. But I can't? Yes, you can. He finally turned to look at her. Those gray eyes were hard. You survived 19 years with that woman. You can survive 3 more miles of snow. Something kindled in Emma's chest, hot, unexpected. You don't know anything about what I survived. I know you're still standing. Mallister turned around. That's enough. Keep walking. Emma gritted her teeth and kept walking. Halfway through the 3rd mile, she fell. Her foot caught on something buried under the snow. A root, maybe, or a rock. And she went down hard. The cold punched the air from her lungs. She tried to push herself up, but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Get up. Mallister's voice came from above her. Emma couldn't see him. Snow in her eyes, her mouth, her nose. I can't get up, Emma. I said I can't. Her voice came out as a sob. I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I've never been strong enough for anything. Hands grabbed her arms. Mallister hauled her to her feet like she weighed nothing. Look at me. She lifted her head. His face was inches from hers. Snow clung to his beard. His breath came in white puffs. Your mother told you that you weren't strong enough, that you were worthless, a burden. Emma didn't answer. She was wrong. Mallister's voice was fierce. You hear me. She was wrong about everything. You're not what she made you think you were. How do you know? Emma whispered. You barely know me. Because weak people don't survive 19 years of hell. Weak people give up. Weak people lie down in the snow and die. He gripped her shoulders. Are you going to lie down and die, Emma? Emma thought about it. Actually thought about it. The snow was soft. The cold was starting to feel almost warm. It would be so easy to just stop. Then she thought about her mother counting gold coins while her only daughter walked out the door forever. No. She wasn't going to give Ruth that satisfaction. No, Emma said louder this time. No, I'm not in walk. Emma walked. The cabin appeared out of the snow like a ghost. One moment there was nothing but white. The next, a solid shape, logs and stone, chimney smoking against the gray sky. Emma stopped and stared. This is it. This is it. It wasn't what she'd expected. She'd imagined something small and crude, barely better than her mother's shack. But this was solid, built to last, built by someone who knew what they were doing. Mallister pushed the door open and stepped aside. Emma crossed the threshold. Heat hit her like a wave. She stumbled forward, shivering uncontrollably. Sit. Mallister pointed to a chair near the fireplace. I'll get your boots off before frostbite sets in. Emma sat. She was too exhausted to argue, too exhausted to do anything but watch as Mallister knelt in front of her and began unlacing her boots. His hands were surprisingly gentle. She flinched anyway. I'm not going to hurt you, he said without looking up. I know. Then stop flinching. Emma's voice cracked. I can't help it. It's what I do when people get close. Mallister paused, looked up at her, those gray eyes unreadable. I know, he said quietly. But you're going to have to unlearn it. Nobody's going to hit you here ever. He pulled off her boots. Her stockings were soaked, her feet were pale and waxy. He eased them into a basin of warm water and began rubbing them gently. The sensation was needles. 1,000 tiny pins stabbing all at once. Emma bit her lip to keep from screaming. It'll hurt for a while, Mallister said. That's good. Means tissue ain't dead. You've done this before. Had to do it to myself once. Got caught in a blizzard 4 years back. Nearly lost 3 toes. Emma watched him work. His movements were efficient. Practiced like he'd spent years taking care of things. Animals, maybe. Or people. Your wife, Emma said. Mallister's hands stilled. I'm sorry, Emma said quickly. I shouldn't have. Martha. His voice was rough. Her name was Martha. Our daughter was Lily. She was 3 when the sickness took her. Emma's chest constricted. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Just don't ask me to talk about them yet. I'm not ready. Okay. Mallister finished with her feet and stood. He went to the stove and ladled something from a pot into 2 bowls. Stew? He said, setting one on the table. Venus and fancy, but it'll warm you. Emma didn't move from the chair. Well, you going to eat? Emma looked at the table, then at him. Do you want me to wait until you're finished? Mallister frowned. Why would I want that? That's how it was at home. Mama ate first. I got what was left. Something dark crossed Mallister's face. For a moment, Emma thought he was angry at her. Then she realized he was angry for her. Get up, he said, his voice tight. Sit at the table. Eat your food while it's hot. Emma rose on shaking legs and went to the table. She sat across from him and picked up the spoon. The stew was rich, hearty, real meat, real potatoes, nothing like the thin, watery meals she was used to. She got 3 spoonfuls down before the tears started. I'm sorry, she said, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I don't know why. Don't apologize. Mallister wasn't eating. He was watching her. You don't got to apologize for nothing in this house. Not for crying, not for eating, not for existing. That's hard, Emma whispered. Stopping apologizing. I know, but you'll learn. We got all winter. They ate in silence. When Emma's bowl was empty, Mallister filled it again without asking. There's a room in back, he said when they'd finished. It's yours. Where will you sleep? Loft, he pointed to a ladder against the wall. Slept up there 6 years. Ain't changing now. Emma nodded. She stood and started gathering the dishes. Leave them. But leave them. His voice was firm. You ain't here to be a servant, Emma. You're here to heal. The dishes can wait until morning. Emma set the bowls down. Her hands were shaking again. Mallister walked to the back room and opened the door. Inside, Emma saw a narrow bed, a washhand, a window looking out into the snowy darkness. There's a bolt on the door, from Mallister said. Emma looked. Yes, a heavy iron bolt on the inside. It's on the inside, he continued. You lock it? Nobody comes in unless you open. Not even me. Emma stared at the bolt. A lock on the inside to keep people out instead of locking her in. You understand? Mallister asked. Emma nodded. Couldn't speak past the knot in her throat. Good sleep. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. He turned and climbed the ladder to the loft without another word. Emma stepped into the room and closed the door. Clicked the bolt, slid home. For the first time in 19 years, she was in a room where nobody could enter without her permission. She crumpled onto the bed and cried until there was nothing left. The first week passed in a blur. Emma slept 8, slept some more. Her body healed from years of deprivation, finally receiving the rest and food it had always been denied. Mallister was a ghost in his own home. He left before dawn to check his traps and returned after dark, bringing rabbits and sometimes deer. He didn't ask Emma to do anything, didn't demand anything. Just let her exist. It was strange, disorienting. Emma kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. On the 8th day, she found him in the main room skinning a rabbit by the fire. Can I help? She asked. He looked up. You know how to skin a rabbit? No, then no, Emma bristled. I could learn. What for? Because I need to do something. Her voice came out sharper than she'd intended. I can't just sit here. I can't just take. I need to earn my keep. Mallister sat down the knife, wiped his hands on a rag, fixed her with those gray eyes. You don't owe me nothing, Emma. You paid 500 for me. I paid 500 to get you away from that woman. It ain't the same, it feels the same. Mallister was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walked to a shelf by the window. You know how to read? He asked. Yes. My papa taught me before he died. He pulled a book from the shelf and handed it to her. The cover was worn leather. The pages were yellowed. He said, When you're done, we'll talk about what you can do around here. Emma looked at the title. Walden by Henry David Thoreau. It's about a man who went to live in the woods by himself, Mallister said, trying to figure out what life really meant. Emma clutched the book to her chest. She hadn't held a book in years. Her mother had burned all her father's books the winter after he died. Thank you, she whispered. Mallister grunted and went back to skinning his rabbit. Emma retreated to her room, curled up on the bed, and started to read. The second week, Mallister taught her to shoot. You need to know how to defend yourself, he said, handing her the rifle. I won't always be here. Where would you go? Nowhere, but accidents happen. I could break a leg on the ice. Bear could get me. You need to be able to survive on your own. Emma held the rifle awkwardly. It was heavier than she'd expected. Like this. Mallister positioned himself behind her, adjusting her grip, her stance. His hands were careful. Didn't linger, but against your shoulder, firm but not tight. Breathe deep. Let it out, squeeze the trigger on the exhale. Emma aimed at the target, a tin can on a post. She pulled the trigger. The recoil knocked her back a step. The shot went wide again. Mallister said she tried again, missed again. By the end of the hour, she'd hit the can twice. Her shoulder ached, her ears rang. Not bad, Mallister said. For a beginner, I missed most of them. You'll get better. He took the rifle from her. Practice every day. By spring, you'll hit a running rabbit at 50 yards. Emma flexed her sore shoulder. Why do you do all this? All what? Teach me, feed me, give me books. She looked at him. What do you want from me? Mallister's expression didn't change. I told you already. I want you to live. That's not an answer. It's the only one I got. He turned and walked back toward the cabin. Dinner in an hour. Don't be late. The third week, Emma found the graves. She hadn't meant to wander so far from the cabin, but the snow had stopped for a few days. The sun was actually shining, and she wanted to see what lay beyond the treen. That's when she saw the wooden cross. Simple. 2 boards nailed together, weather-beaten from years of mountain winters. Someone had carved letters into the crossbeam. Martha Mallister, 1851-1878. Below it, a smaller crosster, 1875-1878. Emma stood for a long time, staring at the graves. The snow around them was undisturbed. No footprints, no signs of recent visits. But the crosses were well maintained. Someone was taking care of them. You shouldn't be here. Emma turned. Mallister stood at the edge of the trees, his face unreadable. I'm sorry, Emma said. I didn't mean to. I was just walking and it's fine. Mallister walked past her and knelt in front of the graves, brushed snow from the smaller cross with his bare hand. I come here sometimes, he said. Talk to them. Emma didn't know what to say. Lily would be 9 this year, Mallister said quietly. She was just learning to walk when the fever took her. Martha went first. I think Lily didn't want to be without her mama. Emma knelt beside him in the snow. What was Martha like? Kind? Too kind for her own good. A ghost of a smile crossed Mallister's face. She found a wolf pup once, half frozen, abandoned by its mother, brought it home, nursed it back to health, named him Solomon. Lived with us 3 years before he went back to the wild. That's beautiful. Martha was beautiful. The smile faded. When she died, I wanted to die too. Put a pistol in my mouth and sat there for 3 hours trying to work up the courage. Emma's heart clenched. What stopped you? I don't know. Cowardice, maybe. Or maybe I thought Martha would be disappointed in me. He stood, brushing snow from his knees. Been up here ever since? Trying to figure out how to keep living when everything worth living for was gone. Have you figured it out? Mallister looked at her. Really? Looked at her for the first time since she'd arrived. I'm starting too, he said. They walked back to the cabin together in silence, but something had shifted between them. The distance Mallister kept. The careful wall of silence and routine had cracked. That night, after dinner, Emma asked the question she'd been holding for weeks. Do you regret it paying all that money for me? Mallister looked up from the knife he was sharpening. No, even though I'm useless. Even though I can barely shoot and don't know how to set traps. Emma, his voice was firm. Stop, you're not useless, and I don't regret bringing you here. Why not? He set the knife down. Because for 6 years, this cabin has been nothing but a place to wait to die. And now, he trailed off. Now what? Now it feels like home again. Emma felt warmth spread through her chest, not from the fire, something deeper, something she hadn't felt in years. I'm glad, she said softly, that I'm here. Sounds strange the way it happened, but I'm glad too. Mallister nodded, picked up the knife, and went back to sharpening. But Emma saw it, the tiny curve at the corner of his mouth. He was glad too. The piece lasted 3 more days. On the morning of the 26th day, Emma was practicing with the rifle behind the cabin when she heard hoof beats. She froze. Nobody came here. Mallister had told her that. Nobody knew where the cabin was except Pritchard. And Pritchard would never tell. The horses got closer. Emma ran. She burst through the cabin door to find Mallister already standing. Someone's coming, she gasped. I know. Get in your room. Bolt the door. But now Emma ran to her room and slammed the door. Her fingers trembled on the bolt. She slid it home just as she heard the front door open. Mallister, a voice called out. Or should I say, Mr. Mountain Man, we need to talk. Emma pressed her ear to the door. Who's asking? Mallister's voice was cold. Name's Denko, Deputy U.S. Marshal out of Helena. A pause. I'm here for the girl. What go? Don't play dumb. Co's voice got closer. Ruth Dozen filed a complaint. Says, you kidnapped her daughter. Brought her here against her will. Ruth Dozen sold her daughter. I got witnesses. That's not what she's saying now. Says you threatened her. Forced her to take the money. Another pause. The way I see it, you got 2 choices. You hand over the girl and I forget this whole thing, or I come back with a posy and burn this cabin down with you and her inside. Emma's blood turned to ice. Her mother had sent someone. After everything. After taking the gold, after saying she never wanted to see her face again, Ruth had sent someone to drag her back. She's not going anywhere. Mallister said, You sure about that? Get off my land, Co. Before I put a bullet in you. A long silence. Then Co laughed. You got 3 days, Mallister, 3 days to hand her over. Footsteps. The front door opening and closing. Hoof beats fading into the distance. Emma's knees gave out. She slid down the door and sat on the cold floor, shaking all over. 3 days. She had 3 days before hell came back for her. The bolt slid open. Emma opened the door to find Mallister standing there, jaw tight. You heard all of it. Every word. Mallister walked to the window and stared out at the trail where Co had disappeared. His knuckles were white around the rifle. She wants me back, Emma said. Her voice sounded hollow. After everything, she wants me back. She doesn't want you back? Mallister turned. She wants leverage. She's probably already spent that gold. Needs more. So, what do? We've got 3 days. 3 days for what? To fight. Emma shook her head. You said the passes are closed. We can't leave until spring. Then we don't leave. Emma stared at him. You can't be serious. You heard him. He's coming back with a posy. Let him come, Caleb. It was the first time she'd used his first name. They both noticed. Neither mentioned it. I've survived worse than Den and Co. Mallister said. I'm not handing you over to that snake just because he's got a badge. What if they burn the cabin? They won't burn anything. His voice was hard. Not if I can help it. Emma wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she wasn't worth dying for. That he should just let her go. Let Co take her back to Silverbent. Let her mother have her victory. But when she opened her mouth, different words came out. Teach me, Mallister frowned. Teach you what? Everything? How to fight? How to defend myself? Emma's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. I'm done being helpless. I'm done waiting for someone else to save me or destroy me. If Co comes back, I want to be ready. Mallister studied her for a long time. Something shifted in those gray eyes. Respect maybe, or recognition. All right, he said. We start now. The first day he taught her how to reload. Speed matters more than aim when you're outnumbered. Mallister said, handing her a box of cartridges. You take too long, you're dead. Emma practiced until her fingers bled. Reload, aim, fire, reload again, again faster. Mallister shouted, I'm trying. Try harder. Co won't wait for you to get it right. By nightfall, Emma could reload in under 5 seconds. Her shoulder was purple with bruises. She didn't complain. You're angry, Mallister said during dinner. I'm terrified. No, you're angry. I see it in the way you shoot. You're not aiming at cans anymore. You're aiming at something else. Emma set down her spoon. Is that bad? Depends. Anger makes you careless if you let it control you. But if you control it, he shrugged. Anger can save you when nothing else will. How do I control it? Don't think about everything she did to you. Think about one thing. The worst thing. Hold on to that. Use it. Emma closed her eyes. The worst thing. There were so many to choose from. The beatings, the burns, the nights locked in the root cellar. But the worst thing wasn't physical. It was her mother's face as she counted the gold coins. The complete absence of hesitation, the relief in Ruth's eyes as she realized she was finally free of her burden. Emma opened her eyes. Got it. Good. Hold on to it. The second day, Mallister taught her the cabin's defenses. This place wasn't built by accident, he said, showing her the thick log walls. Each wall is 18 and of solid pine. Bullets won't go through without a cannon. The windows' shutters are reinforced with iron. Once they're closed, nothing gets through. He knelt and lifted a loose floorboard. There's a space underneath, big enough for one person. If things go bad, you get in there and you don't come out until it's over. What about you? You hide too. That's not negotiable. Mallister's voice was fierce. You understand me. If it comes down to it, you save yourself, Caleb. Promise me. Emma looked at the dark, cramped space. She thought about all the times she'd hidden from her mother under the bed in the closet behind the wood pile. Hiding was what she knew. Hiding was survival. But she was done hiding. I promise, she lied. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She lay in her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind howl outside. Tomorrow was the third day. Tomorrow Co would come. She got up and walked to the main room. The fire had burned down to embers. Mallister sat by the window, rifle across his knees, watching the trail. You should be resting, he said without turning around. So should you. I'll sleep when they're dead. Emma sat across from him. The firelight carved shadows into his face. Can I ask you something? You're gonna anyway. Why did you really save me? Mallister was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I told you. You reminded me of Martha. That's not the whole truth. He turned to look at her. What makes you say that? Because I spent 19 years learning to read people. To know when someone's going to hit me. To know when they're lying. She held his gaze. You're not telling me everything. Mallister set down the rifle, leaned forward, elbows on his knees. When Martha died, I blamed myself. Told myself I couldn't have saved her. But that was a lie. I could have taken her to Virginia City when the fever first hit. I could have paid for a real doctor instead of that drunk in town. I could have. His voice broke. He stopped, took a breath. I spent 6 years punishing myself for not saving her. And then I saw you in that store bleeding, broken, and I thought, this is my chance. God's giving me a chance to save someone I couldn't save before. So, I'm your redemption? Emma said quietly. No. Mallister shook his head. You're your own person, your own redemption. He searched for the words. I'm just trying to do one thing right before I die. You're not going to die. Everybody dies, Emma. Not tomorrow. Not for me. Mallister reached across and took her hand. His fingers were rough, calloused, but his grip was gentle. Whatever happens tomorrow, I need you to know something. These last few weeks, they've meant more to me than the last 6 years combined. You gave me a reason to keep going. Caleb, let me finish. He squeezed her hand. If I don't make it, there's a safe under the floorboards in my room. Papers inside the deed to this land. A letter of credit at a bank in San Francisco. It's all yours. Emma's throat closed. I don't want your money. It's not about what you want. It's about you having a future. He released her hand and picked up the rifle again. Now go to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Emma didn't sleep. She went back to her room, bolted the door, and sat on the bed holding the photograph of her father. 6 years dead. But she still remembered his face, his gentle smile, the way he called her his little wild flower. What would he think of her now? I'm not going to let him die, she whispered to the photograph. Not for me. Not for anyone. She tucked the photo under her pillow and lay down. When sleep finally came, it was fitful and full of nightmares. The third day dawned gray and bitter. Emma woke to the sound of Mallister loading guns in the main room. She dressed quickly and joined it. How many guns do we have? 3 rifles, 2 pistols. Enough ammunition to stop an army. Mallister handed her a revolver. This one's yours. Keep it on you at all times. Emma took it, heavier than she expected. She tucked it into her waistband. When do you think they'll come? Noon. Co will want good light and he'll want us nervous. I already am nervous. Good. Nerves keep you sharp. Mallister moved to the window. They'll come up the main trail. Only way in on horseback. We'll see them long before they reach the cabin. Then we'll see if Co's smart enough to negotiate or stupid enough to attack. The morning crawled. Emma couldn't eat, could barely breathe. Every sound made her jump. A branch snapping, a bird screaming, the wind rattling the shutters. At noon, Mallister went rigid. Here they come. Emma ran to the window. Through the falling snow, she saw figures coming up the trail. 3 horses, 4, 5 men. That's too many, she whispered. Numbers matter less than position. Mallister checked his rifle one last time. They're out in the open. We're cover that evens the odds. The horses stopped about 50 yards from the cabin. Co dismounted and walked forward, hands raised. Mallister, time's up. Bring out the girl. Mallister opened the door just enough to aim his rifle through the crack. She's not going anywhere. Co, turn around and go home. Co laughed. You're outnumbered 5 to 1. You really want to die for a drunk's bastard girl. You really want to find out. The laughter stopped. Co's face hardened. Last chance, Mallister. Bring her out. Nobody gets hurt. You're lying. Emma's voice surprised everyone, including herself. She stepped up beside Mallister, revolver in hand. You didn't come to take me back to my mother. You came for something else. Co's eyes narrowed. Well, the mouse has a voice. Answer me, why are you really here? Your mama owes some important people money, sweetheart. Money she doesn't have anymore because she drank it all. Those people figure you're worth something to someone. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Maybe a mining camp that needs women. Maybe a saloon that needs entertainment. Emma's blood ran cold. Chore, you're going to sell me. Supply and demand, precious. Now come out and we won't have to drag you. Chore. Emma raised the revolver. Her hands were shaking, but her aim was steady. Go to hell. Co's face twisted with rage. He turned to his men. Have it your way. Everything happened at once. Mallister fired. One of the men screamed and fell from his horse. The others scattered, diving behind trees and rocks. Gunfire erupted. Bullets slammed into the cabin walls, splintering wood. Emma hit the floor, heart pounding so hard she thought it would burst. Stay down, Mallister shouted. He was at the window, firing methodically, ducking to reload. Emma crawled toward the back of the cabin. Bullets whistled past her head. Glass shattered. A window exploded inward, raining shards down on her. They're trying to surround us. Mallister yelled, cover the back door. Emma scrambled to her feet and ran to the rear. Through the small window, she saw a man advancing through the tree, trying to flank them. She raised the revolver, aimed, fired. The recoil nearly knocked her over. The shot went wide, but the man dove for cover. Good, Mallister shouted. Keep him pinned. Emma fired again and again. The man stayed down, but there were too many of them. For every shot Mallister landed, 2 came back. The cabin was coming apart around them. Then Emma smelled smoke. Caleb, fire. She turned. Flames licked up the sidewall where someone had thrown a torch. The dry wood caught instantly. Mallister swore. He ran to the wall and tried to beat out the flames with his coat, but they spread too fast. We have to get out, Emma yelled. We go out there, they'll kill us. We stay here, we burn. Mallister's eyes met hers. In a single heartbeat, his breathing changed deeper, slower. Emma didn't understand until she saw him unclench his jaw. I'm sorry, he said. I can't? What? He looked at the fire at the window at her. Caleb, what are you doing? Being selfish one last time. He moved so fast she couldn't react. His hand came up. The butt of his pistol connected with her temple. The world exploded into white light. Emma woke to darkness and the smell of smoke. Her head throbbed. She tried to move, but something heavy pinned her down the floorboard, the hiding space. Mallister had knocked her unconscious, dragged her to the crawl space, hidden her while the cabin burned around them, and now he was gone. No, Emma whispered. She shoved at the floorboard. It wouldn't move. He'd put something on top of it, a trunk maybe, or the heavy table. No. She pushed harder. The wood groaned, shifted, moved an inch. She kept pushing. Finally, the floorboard slid aside. Emma clawed her way out of the crawl space. The cabin was an inferno. Flames consumed everything. Walls, furniture, ceiling. Smoke choked the air, black and thick. Emma could barely see but him. Alistar lay near the front door, slumped against the wall. Blood soaked his shirt. His rifle lay just out of reach. Calpol. Emma ran to him, dropped to her knees. He was breathing shallow, ragged, but breathing. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped. "You hit me in the head. Had to. You wouldn't have," he coughed. Blood on his lips. "Wouldn't it hidden otherwise? You're bleeding." "Bullet got my shoulder. Can't feel my arm." Emma looked at the wound. The blood was dark arterial. If she didn't stop it, he'd bleed out in minutes. "We need to get out of here." "Crawl space." "Not without you." "Emma, shut up." She grabbed his good arm and pulled. He was twice her size, but adrenaline made her strong. She dragged him toward the door. The flames roared around them. The heat was unbearable. Smoke filled Emma's lungs, burning with every breath. They reached the door. Emma kicked it open. Cold air slapped her face. She dragged Mallister outside away from the cabin into the snow. Behind them, the cabin collapsed in a shower of sparks and flame. The heat was so intense, Emma could feel it blistering her back. "Keep moving," Mallister gasped. "Trees, get to the trees." Emma pulled him across the snow. Her arms screamed, her legs shook, but she didn't stop. 50 yards, that's all they needed. 50 yards to the tree line, 20 yards, 10. A figure stepped out from behind a pine. His leg was bleeding. Emma's shot must have hit him, but he was on his feet. His pistol was raised. Well, he said. The brave little mouse should have stayed hidden. Emma didn't think, she acted. She dropped Mallister's arm, raised the revolver, still clutched in her hand, and fired. The bullet hit Coe in the chest. His eyes went wide. His pistol fired once wild, and then he crumpled into the snow. Emma grabbed Mallister and kept dragging. They reached the trees just as shouts erupted behind them. Coe's men searching. Emma pulled Mallister behind a massive pine and propped him against the trunk. His face was gray, blood everywhere. "Stay with me," she begged. "Stay with me." "Tree you shot." Torture. Mallister's eyes were glassy with shock. "You actually shot him. He was going to kill us. We're supposed to hide. I'm done hiding." Emma tore a strip from her dress and pressed it against his wound. "Now shut up and let me save your life." They hid in the cave for 3 days. 3 days of cold and hunger and fear. 3 days of Emma changing Mallister's bandages, keeping him awake, keeping him alive. The bullet was still inside him. She could feel it when she pressed on the wound. A hard little lump buried in torn flesh. "I have to get it out," she told him on the second night. "Then get it out. I don't know how." "You'll figure it out." Emma looked at the fire she'd managed to build with damp wood and sheer stubbornness.